While packing for a so-called girls' trip, she said, "Open relationship or we're done." I replied, "No problem." Then I broke the lease, returned the ring, and moved my savings into my own account. My name is Daniel. I am 33 years old, and I work in commercial real estate analysis. I live in a large West Coast city, and my life runs on calendars, spreadsheets, and routine. Long workdays, early workouts, quiet nights. I do not improvise big decisions. I plan them. My girlfriend was Emily. She is 30. We were together for a little over 3 years and living together for the last 14 months in a rented apartment near downtown. We split the lease, but the savings account was shared, and we had a ring picked out, but not yet announced. From the outside, we looked settled. Emily liked to describe herself as spontaneous. In reality, she liked leverage. She pushed boundaries, watched reactions, then framed any resistance as insecurity. Her default tone was sharp, especially when she felt entitled to agreement. I ignored that longer than I should have. The girls' trip had been talked about for weeks. A beach destination, a rented house, a group chat that never stopped buzzing. I did not object. I never do. I trust behavior, not promises. The shift came while she was packing. I was at the kitchen table reviewing numbers when she walked out of the bedroom holding swimsuits and laughing into her phone. She tossed a pile onto the counter and said she had been thinking. That tone always meant she had already decided something. She said she did not want to feel restricted anymore. That travel changed people. That she wanted freedom without consequences. Then she said it plainly. Either we open the relationship while she is gone, or we are done. She said it casually, like she was asking what we should order for dinner. I did not argue. I did not ask follow-up questions. I did not ask who. I just looked at her and said no problem. She smiled like she thought she won. What she did not realize was that I was not agreeing to her terms. I was agreeing with the ending. She kept packing after that like nothing had happened. Humming, tossing dresses into the suitcase, talking about flight times and how they might extend the trip if they were having fun. Every few minutes she glanced at me, clearly expecting something. A question, a reaction, jealousy, anything. I gave her none of it. When she finally noticed the silence was permanent, she asked if I was really okay with it. I said yes, absolutely. That seemed to confuse her more than anger would have. She asked if I wanted to set rules, boundaries, communication, expectations. I told her there was no need. That was when the bitchy edge crept in. She smirked and said, "See, this is why I love you. You're not controlling like other guys." She said most men would freak out, but I was mature enough to handle reality. She said this would make us stronger. I nodded and went back to my laptop. What she did not know was that I had already shifted into logistics mode. When someone gives you an ultimatum that involves disrespecting the foundation of your relationship, the emotional part is already over. All that is left is execution. The next morning, while she was out getting her nails done for the trip, I called the leasing office. Asked about early termination clauses, fees, notice periods. I pulled up our joint savings account and checked the balance. I reviewed the ring return policy. All boring, unromantic steps that suddenly mattered a lot. When she came back, she was glowing. New nails, new energy. She told me one of her friends might bring a guy back to the house and joked that she hoped I wouldn't be jealous if she did too. She said it like a test. I told her to have fun and asked what time her flight was again. That night, she packed the last of her things for the trip. I packed something too. Not a suitcase. Documents. Passwords. A checklist. She fell asleep smiling, convinced she had just expanded her options without losing her security. I lay awake next to her, already living in a different version of my life. She thought the open relationship started when she got on the plane. It actually started the moment she gave me the ultimatum. The morning of her flight, I woke up before she did. Not out of nerves. Out of habit. I made coffee, sat at the table, and started moving money. Our joint savings account had been pitched as a symbol of trust. In reality, I had contributed about 80% of it. I transferred my share into a new account under my name only. Clean. Legal. No drama. I left her portion untouched. Next was the ring. We had bought it together, technically. She picked it out. I paid for it. It was sitting in the back of my dresser in its box, waiting for some perfect future moment that suddenly no longer existed. I put it back in the original bag with the receipt. When she woke up, she was buzzing with excitement. Running through the apartment half-dressed, checking chargers, passports, lip balm. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "Don't wait up." Then she laughed and added, "Unless you're out too." I smiled and told her to have a great trip. She left an hour later, suitcase rolling behind her, completely unaware that the version of me she expected to come back to no longer existed. The second the door closed, I got to work. I sent written notice to the leasing office. Paid the early termination fee. Expensive, yes, but cheaper than staying tied to someone who treated commitment like an inconvenience. I scheduled movers for the following week. I forwarded my mail. I changed passwords on everything that mattered. That afternoon, I returned the ring. The clerk asked if everything was okay. I said yes and meant it. By the time her plane took off, our relationship was already functionally over. She just hadn't received the notification yet. That evening she texted me from the airport. Said she missed me already. Sent a selfie with her friends. Told me this was going to be good for us. I replied with a heart emoji. Not because I was playing games. Because there was no point explaining something she would only understand once it was done. She thought the open relationship meant freedom. What it really meant was that I was finally free too. The first crack in her confidence showed up 2 days into the trip. She texted me late at night saying the place was amazing, but something felt off. She asked what I was up to. I told her I was busy with work and settling some things. That was true, just not in the way she imagined. The next morning, she asked why our joint savings app showed a lower balance. Her message was framed as casual curiosity, but I could see the tension underneath it. I replied that I moved my portion into my own account. I said it plainly, like it was a routine adjustment. I did not wait for the response. I blocked her number, then messaging apps, then social media. Everywhere she could reach me directly, I closed the door. Not out of anger, out of clarity. That conversation was not going to improve with more words. The silence after that was immediate and noticeable. No buzzing phone, no rapid-fire messages, just quiet. I went back to what I was doing. That afternoon, the leasing office confirmed the termination date. One more box checked. I forwarded the confirmation to my personal email and archived the rest. Later that night, I checked my email and saw multiple missed call notifications from unknown numbers. I did not answer. I deleted them. If she had something urgent to say, she could say it later, through lawyers if needed. She thought the open relationship meant flexibility. What it actually meant was that I no longer owed her access. And from that moment on, everything started unraveling for her without me saying another word. Blocking her flipped the dynamic instantly. Within an hour, my email started filling up. Long messages. Short ones. Subject lines like "please answer" and "what is happening?" I did not read them closely. I skimmed just enough to confirm the pattern. Confusion first. Then accusation. Then panic. She tried reaching me through her friends next. One of them messaged me on LinkedIn of all places, saying Emily was worried and did not understand why I had disappeared. I ignored it. Another friend emailed asking if I was okay because Emily was saying I was spiraling. That one I archived without responding. What she could not understand was that this was not emotional. It was procedural. I spent that afternoon finalizing the move. Movers confirmed. New apartment approved. Deposit paid from my account only. I redirected my direct deposit. I separated subscriptions. Every shared thread got cut cleanly. That night, I received a notification from the Ring store. Refund processed. The money hit my account the next morning. Seeing that balance just felt oddly grounding. Like closing a loop I had left open too long. Meanwhile, she was still on the trip. Apparently, the girl's trip vibe changed fast. According to someone who later reached out, she spent most of the third day glued to her phone, snapping at her friends, drinking too much, complaining that I was ruining everything by being dramatic and unresponsive. She told them I was being passive-aggressive, that I agreed to the open relationship and then punished her for it, that I was trying to scare her into compliance. What she did not say was that she never once asked how I felt. She only noticed a problem when the safety net disappeared. 2 days later, she tried again through my work email. This time the message was calmer, measured. She said we should pause everything until she got back and talk face to face. That we were making irreversible decisions too fast. That was the point. I did not reply. I was already living in the version of my life where her ultimatum had been taken seriously, and she was still treating it like a negotiation. By the time her plane was scheduled to land, there was nothing left for her to come back to. She landed 3 days later. I know this because the leasing office emailed me confirming the unit walkthrough time I had scheduled for the same afternoon. I had planned it intentionally. I did not want overlap. I did not want a reunion scene. I wanted separation to remain clean. She found out the hard way. According to the building manager, Emily showed up at the apartment dragging her suitcase, clearly exhausted and already irritated. only to be told that I had terminated the lease and movers had cleared most of the unit. Her name was still on the lease, technically, but the process was already irreversible. That was when the panic apparently turned real. She tried calling from the lobby phone. Blocked. She emailed again. Longer this time. Less attitude. She said she did not realize I would actually do something this extreme. She said open relationship did not mean open exit. She said we needed to talk before things went too far. Things were already past that point. I moved into my new place that evening. Smaller. Quieter. Mine alone. No shared closets. No joint drawers. No passive-aggressive comments about decor. I slept on a mattress on the floor and felt lighter than I had in months. The next day, she escalated. She showed up at my office. Security called me down instead of letting her through. She was crying. Said it was an emergency. Said I had cut her off without explanation. That was when I realized she truly believed my silence was temporary. I told security I did not know her and asked them to handle it. Apparently that hurt more than anything else. She sent one final email that night. No blame. No insults. Just desperation. She said she never meant to lose me. That the ultimatum was supposed to be a conversation starter. That she thought I would fight for us. I read that one carefully. Then I archived it. Because when someone says change the rules or we are done, and you respond by taking them at their word, there is nothing left to discuss. She thought she was opening the relationship. What she actually opened was the door for me to leave. And I walked through it without looking back. After she showed up at my office, the emails kept coming. I know this not because I read them, but because I set a filter. Anything from her address went straight into a folder I never opened. No previews. No notifications. No subject lines popping up on my screen. I was not playing hard to get. I was done receiving input. That distinction mattered. From what I heard later, the tone of the emails changed daily. At first they were angry. Accusations. Claims that I blindsided her. That I weaponized silence. That I was cruel for doing all of this while she was gone. Then came the rationalizations. She said she never wanted a real, open relationship. That it was just about feeling desired. That I should have known her better than to take it literally. After that came bargaining. She offered compromises she had mocked months earlier. Counseling. Boundaries. Closing the relationship again. She even suggested we reset and pretend the trip never happened. The audacity of that one almost impressed me. I still did not read a single word. What I did notice was how quiet my life became when her voice disappeared from it. No tension in my shoulders when my phone buzzed. No second-guessing my tone. No rehearsing arguments in my head before walking through the door. At work, my focus sharpened. I took on a new project without hesitation. I started sleeping through the night again. I cooked meals without commentary about calories or effort or how some other guy would do it differently. Mutual friends stopped reaching out once it became clear I was not engaging. Drama only survives when there is an audience. Apparently that frustrated her the most. She wanted a reaction. Any reaction. Anger. Hurt. Nostalgia. Even hatred would have been something she could respond to. Silence gave her nothing to push against. The irony was that she accused me of avoiding accountability while refusing to take any herself. The ultimatum was her choice. The consequences were mine. I did not ghost her. I exited. And by refusing to read her emails, I made sure the past stayed exactly where it belonged. By the second week, the situation stopped being loud and started being messy. I know that sounds contradictory, but silence has a way of amplifying other people's behavior. Without me responding, Emily started filling the void with explanations directed at anyone who would listen. Friends, co-workers, family members who barely knew me. Everyone got a slightly different version. In one version, I panicked. In another, I was manipulative. In another, I was emotionally unavailable and pushed her into asking for an open relationship. The common thread was that nothing was ever her fault. Context was optional. Accountability was absent. The emails kept stacking up in the filtered folder. I could see the count increasing without opening a single one. 10, 15, 20. I never clicked. I never skimmed. I never let curiosity win. I already knew the pattern well enough to predict the contents. What I did read were the legal confirmations. The lease termination finalized. Deposit disposition clarified. Utilities closed. Everything neat and boring and irreversible. I moved the last of my things into storage and donated what I did not want to carry forward. Each small task made the separation feel more real and more permanent. One evening, a mutual friend called and asked if I had read Emily's latest email. I said no and meant it. He hesitated and said she was saying she poured her heart out and that my silence was cruel. I told him something I had not said out loud yet. I said if someone gives you an ultimatum that dismantles the relationship, they forfeit the right to a reaction when you accept it. He did not argue. Apparently, Emily could not stand that I never acknowledged her explanations. In her mind, silence meant I did not understand. What she never considered was that understanding did not equal agreement. I did not need closure emails. I already had closure the moment she tried to renegotiate monogamy like a packing list item. She wanted emotional processing. I chose finality. And as the noise around her grew more frantic, my life grew quieter in a way that felt intentional. That contrast was the real confirmation that I had done the right thing. The first time I actually felt the fallout was not through her. It was through other people adjusting their behavior around me. Friends who had stayed neutral stopped asking if I would ever talk to her again. Coworkers who knew the situation stopped making jokes about relationship drama. Even my parents, who had liked her, quietly stopped bringing her up. The absence became accepted as permanent. Emily, on the other hand, did not adjust as quickly. I know this because the filtered email folder kept growing. 30, 40, then more. I never opened a single one. I did not mark them as read. I did not forward them. They existed in a digital limbo that mirrored her place in my life. At some point, she apparently switched tactics again. Instead of pleading, she started framing herself as the one who escaped. She told people she had asked for an open relationship because she felt trapped. That my reaction proved she was right to question our future. That my silence was emotional immaturity. The story almost worked. Almost. The problem with rewriting history is that timing still exists. She asked for freedom while packing for a vacation. I responded by removing myself entirely. People can debate tone and intention all they want, but cause and effect is hard to argue with. One mutual friend eventually told me she was furious that I never fought for her, that she expected resistance, passion, something to validate that she mattered enough to provoke a response. That expectation said more than any email ever could. She did not want resolution. She wanted confirmation that she was irreplaceable, that she could push the limits of commitment without consequences. Instead, she got proof that ultimatums work both ways. By this point, I had settled fully into my new place. New routines, new bank account, no shared anything. I started dating again slowly, with a very different filter than before. Anyone who used leverage as a communication tool was immediately disqualified. The irony is that the open relationship she wanted so badly never actually happened. She lost the relationship before she ever opened it. And she never got a response explaining why. That silence was the answer. The last update I ever got about Emily came months later, and it was indirect. A friend mentioned she had moved again. New place, new roommates, new narrative. Apparently, she was telling people the breakup forced her to grow up. That she learned the hard way that independence means consequences. I hope that part was true. For her sake, not mine. The email folder eventually stopped growing. I noticed one day that weeks had passed without a new message added. Not because I had been counting, but because the number had stayed the same. That was how it ended. Not with closure. Not with a final speech. Just with the absence of new noise. I never read a single email. People sometimes ask if I regret not explaining myself. If I think silence was too harsh. My answer is always the same. Explanations are for misunderstandings. This was not a misunderstanding. It was a values check. She wanted the freedom of being single without the cost of being single. She wanted commitment as a backup plan. She wanted to renegotiate loyalty like it was a subscription she could pause. When she said open relationship or we are done, I took her seriously. I did not argue. I did not bargain. I did not try to be the cool, understanding guy who swallows discomfort to keep the peace. I accepted the terms and chose the option that preserved my self-respect. Breaking the lease cost money. Returning the ring cost nothing compared to keeping it. Moving my savings into my own account was not revenge. It was alignment. The quiet life I have now is not accidental. It is built on one decision made cleanly and followed through without hesitation. If there is any advice in this story, it is simple. Ultimatums are not invitations to negotiate. They are declarations. And when someone declares they are willing to risk losing you to get what they want, believe them the first time. I did. And that was the end of it.